Hipster Texas high school football games.
Yeah.
Games that are flying under the radar. The
Yeah.
big games this week, I think, John Tyler and Longview, DeSoto and Duncanville. I think Edinburgh Vela and PSGA North qualifies.
Probably.
I think
yeah.
Smithson Valley and Schertz Clemens qualifies. Amarillo, about Lubbock Cooper and Lubbock Coronado qualifies. A few other really good ones, really good small school games.
Midland Tascosa. That's an interesting
Midland
one.
Tascosa's got a ton of intrigue to it. But these are the games that I think are flying just under that radar. Teams that are games that maybe you're not paying enough attention to. They're all picked they're all previewed on TexasFootball.com/preview. But here are my picks for the Hipster. I just dropped my pen. Hold on.
Uh-oh. You need that pen
Can't do
to
it
do a
without
radio show.
I really do. It's a pointing object.
Oh,
Let's
good.
start in Reagan County. As the 8-0 Reagan County Owls,
Yep.
I got a comment earlier this week about why they weren't ranked.
Okay.
And I don't have a great answer. They've had a huge offense. Quarterback LJ DeLeon's been great. Running back Carlos Del Rio. I really like this team.
Yeah.
I think this is their toughest game today.
Probably.
They get Sonora at home. And Sonora, their one loss is to who was it to? Iran.
Yeah.
Who's an undefeated 2A team. Granted, that's 2A over 3A, but still. Sonora's really good. You always know that Coach David Sign's going to have his squad ready to roll. And they got a very big offense with Caden Cordell, who's incredible. I think this has a chance to be a very, very, very interesting game. I want to see whose defense can make the stops. I am 48 minutes away from jumping full bore onto the Reagan County bandwagon.
Interesting.
If they beat Sonora,
Yeah, for sure. Why wouldn't
in.
you? Yeah.
I'm in. They're 9-0, and they're 9-0 with a real signature feather in their cap.
Sure.
I'm saying if they beat Sonora, I'm all in.
I think that's reasonable.
It's one game. Staying out west, how about Post and Hawley? Post and Hawley are two squads. Post is a squad that I think has kind of been on our radar for a little bit.
We've been high on them, but they haven't been high profile.
That's exactly right. Their only loss is to Coleman, who is a really good
team.
3A team.
Yeah.
And I really like the way that they use their 2A players.
Yeah.
They got AJ Reed, who's their kind of big time defensive lineman and running back. I like Michael Fugerson, who's back from injury. He's another running back and their linebacker. Jacob Escobedo their quarterback's been great. They're taking on a Hawley team. Who lost last week to Anson. Anson's a pretty solid squad. I don't think that's a real bad loss.
Right.
But they really, their signature win is that they beat Monday earlier this year. This Hawley team's got Quay Stokes, big-time quarterback. The question's going to be about defense, and can they slow down what's been a pretty good Post offense? That's a really interesting game to me, Post and Hawley out there in kind of the, I guess, South Panhandle-ish area.
Yeah.
In the DFW area, kind of, North Texas, Melissa and Celina. So we talk about Celina,
right?
And we've mentioned them. Their one loss in the year is to Argyle, and they've had a great year, I think, so far. I don't think they necessarily say that they've had a bad year. Celina's been pretty good.
I think they've been disappointing. That opening loss to Princeton was
they've got
really
two
surprising.
Losses,
yeah, the opening loss to Princeton, very surprising.
Mm-hmm.
It's taken them a long time to get the offense going. I think we thought that was going to happen. They pretty much had to replace everyone except Pingleton on offense. So, but still, a slower start than you expected from. They seem to be rounding into form, but again, they aren't playing quite the competition they were early on.
Well, now they get a test against a team that we haven't talked about, I think, at all in Melissa. Yeah. Melissa, just a couple of years removed from going to a title game, and this team is young and explosive. Okay, they got a freshman running back, Kadrick Cobbs, who's torching people, and a junior running back in Tate Whittington that I think is a player to watch. The question's going to be on defense. I think this is a game decided by defense, decided by who's going to get those 3 stops per half.
Yeah.
3 stops per half, and you win this game. And I think that Melissa has a real shot to go on the road and really stake their claim as a legit 4A Division II contender.
And it's not just a quality win over a quality opponent. It's a big name win, right? Celina resonates. Yeah. So I think it'd be a big boost.
That's something that would catch a lot of people's attention. Like, whoa, they beat Celina.
Yeah.
I think that would be very big. So there's that. Down the Houston area, 2 teams that we have not talked about enough. We talked earlier this year to new Caney Porter coach Jim Holly after their big win over Crosby. Well, Porter's just kept on keeping on. They've been great.
They've been great.
their crosstown rival New Caney has not been shabby either. 7-1 on the year, or 6-1 rather on the year. This team has been very good. Their dual threat quarterback Jordan Cooper has been very special for them.
Yeah.
Defense pretty good as well. Hey, do you remember? I'm going to throw a name out there, and maybe you remember it, maybe you don't. We're just going to throw a name out there.
Okay.
Tom Westerberg. Ring a bell?
Yeah.
Does it ring a bell?
Used to be the Allen coach.
Yeah, he used to be the Allen
coach.
coach.
Yeah.
So
What's he up to these days?
He's the new coach at Barbers Hill.
Oh, that's right.
And guess what? All of a sudden, they're super good.
They're pretty good. I know.
They're 7-1, and he is working their magic. Their lone loss is to Crosby, so good loss.
Good loss. Yeah.
But they're
scoring points.
Their quarterback Cameron Cowthan's been great. They're scoring. It's kind of Allen. They've taken a group of kids who have learned under Ronnie Gage how to run the ball.
Yeah.
And now in 1 year he's turned them into a spread team, and they're killing fools.
Yeah.
This game in 21-5A super interesting. Barbers Hill and New Caney, two really cool stories down there in the Houston area. And finally, with all the talk in the DFW area about, DeSoto and Duncanville, Saxe and Rowlett, all these games. Mansfield Legacy and Mansfield Lake Ridge is flying right under that radar.
Yeah.
Okay. Jason Bean, their quarterback for Lake Ridge, has, I think, been just as good as you want him to be. I think the defense is starting to come around.
Yeah.
I think that they look a lot like they did last year.
Yeah.
Where the Lake Ridge defense was never a world beater. They were never last year that team that made a title game. That Lake Ridge defense was not something that they were like, we're just going to shut out people. No, like they got enough stops and they turned the ball over. Well, now they're taking on a legacy team coming off of a great win over Waxahachie. Their running back Cameron Sessions been great. They got dual threat quarterback and Kendall Catalon. Question's going to be on defense with Jalen Catalon, the linebacker, leading the way. I think this game has a chance to get up into the 40s. I think this game's going to. This is the kind of game that they both want to get the score up. Because I don't think either of them trust their defense to be that kind of big world beater that can lead you to a win. But I think Mansfield Legacy and Mansfield Lake Ridge is super intriguing to me. I think if I were to pick, I'd go with Lake Ridge. But if you believe in momentum, which I don't, but if you believe in momentum, it's squarely on the side of Legacy coming off that big win over Waxahachie. So those are my Hipster Texas high school football games. What games do you think are flying under the radar? Let us know. #DCTF Live. We are DCTF Live. We're here every weekday at noon on TexasFootball.com, talking football in the Lone Star State. You can follow us on Twitter at DCTF, like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Dave Campbell's, follow us on Instagram, Instagram.com/Dave Campbell's, and of course, see us at TexasFootball.com. Max, if we're talking Texas high school football, we want to bring in the expert. We want to bring in the Dave Campbell's Texas Football High School Insider, Matt Stepp.
Yes.
Matt_Stepp817 on Twitter. And Stepp, another big week of Texas high school football, week 9. First and foremost, which games? I know you're going to 700,000 games this weekend.
Yes.
Which games are you going to this weekend?
Well, let's see. Tonight I will be doing a Keller ISD battle. Could be for a potential playoff spot as Keller Central takes on Keller Fossil Ridge, and I'm a little slightly biased in this game. My daughters attend Fossil Ridge, so I guess I may be slightly biased toward the Panthers there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then where are you heading?
Friday night, I'm actually doing a double dip down in the Rio Grande Valley this week. A 35 doubleheader. 2 big games. The first game Friday night is Mission Veterans Memorial in Rio Grande City.
Mm-hmm.
That game could likely be for the final playoff spot in the district. And then Saturday night over in Laredo, not technically the Valley, but it's still South.
Be careful.
Sherryland takes on Laredo Nixon. If Laredo Nixon wins that game, they will have the inside track to the District 31 5A title. If Sherryland wins, then that opens the door for Sherryland Pioneer to be the district champion based on their win last week over Sherryland.
And there is I'm glad you brought it up, and you picked a great week to go down to the Rio Grande Valley and the kind of the Laredo area, because there is a huge week down there. PSJ North and Edinburgh Vela is on our radar. I think Laredo United and Eagle Pass is interesting in 29-6A. I think Harlingen and Los Fresnos is interesting. It's
always a big game. It's Laredo United South and Del Rio also.
It is a superb week in the Valley. So if you're in the Valley, I don't have to tell this to the people in the Valley. Get out to a football game. That's a dumb statement. That's like saying fill up your car with gas. Of course, just do it. All right, I do want to ask you a little bit about Longview and John Tyler. This is, I think, the game that everybody has circled, spotlighted out there in East Texas. Max brought up the interesting point while we were doing our pick'em video that it's weird to see these two teams not ranked.
Yeah.
But even without that, I think that the winner of this game, this is my view, I think the winner of this game kind of solidifies himself as a legit contender in 6A.
Yeah, Region 2 in a Division 2 is in which both of these schools, if they make the playoffs, which they both should, will be slated in the Division 2 bracket. Region 2, Division 2 is fairly wide open. There's really not a clear-cut favorite, and I think the winner of this game, I think actually both teams are still kind of right in that mix regardless of what happens tonight, but I think the winner certainly has a leg up simply from the standpoint of getting to host a playoff game, A, and B, not having to take a huge road trip down to Beaumont to play a first-round playoff game, which will be a tough chore in and of itself. And then you throw in the fact that Westbrook is pretty good this year. That's a real tough challenge for the loser of this game. So there's a lot on the line tonight over at Lobo Stadium.
Yeah, there really is, and I think that's kind of the
tomorrow night. Excuse me.
Tomorrow night, yeah. But I think that's you're used to coming on with us on Fridays. That's the interesting thing that I'm starting to pay more attention to, and I made the point on Twitter last night. Start paying attention to these enrollments because that is so important right now, and that's why TexasFootball.com/projections is such a critical tool for you because we project out each bracket. Right there, Matt Stepp is going through and crunching the numbers, figuring out who's going to be where and who's playing where. And I think that's the biggest thing is that now that we're in Week 9, 3 weeks left in the regular season, especially in 6A with home field advantage on the line, that adds, I think, another flair to a lot of these games.
Oh, there's no question about it. And this situation is extremely fluid because based on who gets in, it could bump a team into a different division where they might host a playoff game in one division, but if a certain team wins, they get bumped to a different division. Now all of a sudden they're the lower seeds, but they don't host anymore, and vice versa. There's a ton of moving parts. 3 weeks left in the season. Almost I would say in 6A and 5A, 6A especially, I would think there's probably the vast majority of the games have some sort of implications towards the playoffs, one way or the other. I mean, we're talking 80 to 90% of the games in 6A probably have some sort of implication towards either a playoff spot, playoff seeding, or home field advantage in the playoffs.
I want to ask you about a couple of games down there in the Houston area. I think that this week for Houston is a really interesting week for games that are just under that really upper crust. We talk a lot about North Shore. We talk a lot about the Woodlands stuff like that. But for me, I'm really interested to see what Richmond Foster does against Victoria East.
Yes.
I think Klein Collins and Houston Stratford is interesting. Clear Springs and Clearbrook should be a lot of fun. And then we mentioned it before, Barbers Hill and New Caney. So for you, looking down at the slate of Houston games, is there any particular game that stands out to you as particularly relevant, particularly important?
Yeah, I think Klein Collins and Houston Stratford is a really big game. Collins is another one of those teams that I think in Region 2 we're talking about as a potential contender to win the region. Stratford is a good team, but they're not a great team by any means, but they're a solid, reputable 6A opponent in a playoff team. I think Collins, if they come out and really handle Stratford like I think they have the ability to, I think that really begins to put Collins even more into that category of regional contenders. And I think you can say the same thing for Richmond Foster in 5A. That they have the inside track to that district title down in Region 4. Victoria East, high-powered offense, a little bit suspect on defense. These are the kind of games that Foster, in my opinion, should really put some distance between themselves and the other teams in the district. That are good teams, but not on that level that Foster is. Clear Springs down at 24-6A has been a real surprise. They already own a win over Dickinson. They have Clearbrook this week. Clearbrook's been a real surprise, very good team. I think this is kind of a real measuring stick for Clearbrook, especially to kind of see where they stand against the elites in the district. And if you're Clear Springs and you want to win that district title and really kind of put your foot on the rest of the district, you win this game tonight or win this game this week. Because if you lose, you've opened the door back up for Dickinson and Friendswood to sneak back in and win that district championship.
Yeah. We're talking with Matt Stepp, DCTF High School Football Insider on DCTF Live. Get involved in the conversation at #DCTF Live. In the smaller school ranks in 4A, Cuero and Sinton is another game that we've spotlighted on the site and a game that I'm particularly interested in. Are you buying Quirrell as a potential party crasher in 4A Division II? I think that for me, I look at 4A Division II, and West Orange Stark versus Gilmer looks kind of like a foregone conclusion. But could you see Quirrell? Are you buying Quirrell as a potential party crasher?
Yeah, it's a tough really question to really answer, because I think Quirrell is the clear favorite in Region 4, which is saying something, because you're talking about a team that's going to go to the semifinals. But at the same token, as it stands right now, West Orange Stark, just in my view, looks like such a prohibited favorite that it's tough to envision any scenario other than West Orange Stark not only playing for the state championship, but winning the state championship. So, but I'll say this: I think if there's a team that could match up and put some points up against the West Orange Stark defense, it's Cuero. Cuero's very, very tough. They've got multiple weapons. They've got enough team speed to hang with West Orange Stark. Cuero's been a projected high. They throw out some really great games, and then they throw out some games where you're kind of like, they beat 3 by 3, and I think they beat Yoakum by 7. And it's kind of like, they throw out some clunkers, and they throw out some games like last week where they absolutely just destroy Aransas Pass 70-3, and you're like, okay, they look like a state title contender. So Cuero's a little up and down for my taste. I think they're still the favorite in Region 4. But I'm not sure the consistency is there to match them up at West Orange Stark right now.
And I'm not a team that has not laid any clunkers this year. They have been completely consistent. San Angelo Central out there in West Texas, and I made the point on Twitter that they need to be rooting real hard for Friendship to make the playoffs, because that would bump them up to the Division I bracket. They draw a I would say desperate Odessa Permian team this week. Can you give me a look at what you're looking at for this Central and Permian game, and then kind of a look at District 2 6A as a whole?
Permian's on life support. I mean, the plug is about to get pulled on them, literally. I mean, they have to win out and get help to get into the playoffs at this point. But you look at it, and they've lost the last 2 games by 1 point. They're extremely young. They've had injuries. They've had to bring guys up from the JV. So you look at it, you're like, oh, Permian's 0-3 in district. But I think the staff's done a really good job of holding that thing together and keeping them at a pretty competitive level, regardless of the bad luck they've had. That being said, I don't think San Angelo is going to feel sorry for them. I think San Angelo comes out in this game at Ratliff. They get out to that quick start like they're known to do. They're really good about getting out to a fast start and kind of putting on cruise control in the third quarter. I think San Angelo, to me, is the best big school team in West Texas since Abilene's 2009 state title team. So I think San Angelo kind of just ends the talk of Permian making the playoffs, and then you look at it in 2-6A, you're down to 3 teams basically fighting for 2 spots, and that's Friendship, Tascosa, and Midland Lee. Obviously, next week you have Friendship and Midland Lee playing. If I'm a San Angelo fan, I'm rooting very hard for Friendship to get in, and then I'm rooting for Odessa Permian to beat Midland Lee in the last week of the season, so that way it eliminates Midland Lee, and there's no tiebreaker scenarios at play if Midland Lee somehow beats Permian and then Friendship loses another game. You could have a potential 3-way tie with those 3 for 2 spots. So I think the best route for San Angelo is Division I. Obviously, there's Allen in the Division I bracket, but if you're looking at it specifically from a matchup standpoint, I think San Angelo matches up a little bit better with Allen than they do against somebody like DeSoto or Cedar Hill or even Mansfield in Division II. I think the matchup from a pure football standpoint, having seen the teams in person, I think San Angelo matches up a little bit better with Allen. I'm not saying they would beat Allen, but I think DeSoto and their ability to get on the edge, one-on-one matchups, San Angelo, their defense, the weaknesses is secondary, in my opinion. I think DeSoto would get the receivers in space, and that would probably hurt San Angelo a little bit more than a team that tries to be more physical and run right at you.
You mentioned Allen, and last week we found out a lot about them. I think that was kind of a prove-it game for all of us. We want to find out a lot more what Allen looked like. They answer with a very impressive win over Denton Geyer. Is there a team this week that you think is in a similar situation, a team that maybe you're not buying quite yet, but if they win this week, you may be willing to hop on the bandwagon? I made the point a little earlier that I'm that way with Reagan County down there in 3A, that if they beat Sonora this week, I'm buying in on the Owls. Is there a team this week that you think has a lot to that can prove a lot to you this week?
Yeah, Reagan County is a really good one. I think that's one, for sure that would classify in that. I'm going to go with a team that got hammered last week. And that's Sinton.
Yeah.
I think Sinton and Cuero this week. Sinton lost 40-0 to Wharton last week, and I don't know if there were some circumstances. I don't know if they had a couple of guys out. They just had a terrible night. If there were turnovers, I didn't examine the box score all that closely, but that score certainly caught my eye last week. So I think Sinton has a chance where if Cuero comes out and just completely dominates Sinton and does what they probably should do against a team that lost 40-0 last week, Cuero kind of does what they need to do. But I think we kind of know Sinton's a good team, but not a great team. But if they can come out and turn it around and play Cuero, even if they don't win, but they give Cuero all they want, then maybe we can look at that Wharton game as a bit of an anomaly and still have Sinton among the favorites in Region 4. I think Wimberley's kind of in that same boat. They're playing Navarro this week. I think this is a real prove-it. I think this is a real prove-it game for Wimberley, where if they can knock off Navarro, then okay, we know Wimberley's for real. But Navarro has been really, really good. They're undefeated. Haven't lost a regular season game in a couple of years, so this is a real big test for Wimberley to see if they can make that jump from being good to an elite team.
And finally, we're talking to Matt Stepp, DCTF High School Insider here on DCTF Live. Involve the conversation at #DCTF Live. Finally, Matt, you may or may not have heard, but we are heading out to New Diana tonight to go see New Diana in Ore City, which is a great game.
Playoff spot is potentially on the line for this game as well. I mean, you could be looking at a play-in game, which is, and it's a big rivalry already. So I think that makes it even better. But the tea leaves are saying that DCTF Live is heading east on I-20 this afternoon. Yeah,
I believe it's the battle of, I want to say 287 is what they both are on, and so somebody slid into my DMs about that.
Nice.
I think it's the battle of 287. But my question is, more importantly, we are going to Stanley's Barbecue in Tyler tonight, and then we are going.
Put me in your trunk and take me with you.
And
please?
then we are going, and then we are going to New Diana and Ore City. So my question is, are you jealous?
I'm extremely jealous because Stanley's Barbecue in Tyler is a wonderful place to have a good pregame meal, and I'm extremely jealous. All I recommend is come hungry because you will not be disappointed.
Don't worry.
Oh, we are skipping lunch.
Yeah.
We are skipping lunch, and we are going to make sure we are good and famished. He is Matt Stepp. He is the DCTF High School Insider. You can see his fine work at TexasFootball.com and follow him on Twitter at Matt_Stepp817.
Yeah.
Stepp, appreciate your time. Enjoy the Valley.
Enjoy the barbecue, boys.
All right.